Welcome back to the second session of direct and indirect speech. We had already done with Rule 1, in which it was said that if the reporting verb is in the present or future tense, the tense of the verb in the reported speech is not changed at all. The example which was given to you was indirect speech. He said, I am living in Paris. In indirect, it becomes, he says that he is living in Paris. Now, as we all know, the format of the reporting verb in the indirect changes when we are quoting somebody's words and we are not using the same speech, that is, we are not using it in the direct form. In Rule 2, it says, if the reporting verb is in the past tense, the tense of the verb in the reported speech is changed into one of the forms of the past tense. Example: shall will be changed to should, will be changed to would, may will be changed to might, can changes to could, come changes to came, is coming changes to was coming, has coming into had coming, and has been coming changes to had been coming. There are a few rules which we follow in regard to the tenses. A chart was already shown to you, but here we have a detailed explanation to it. A simple present tense which is said in a direct form changes to a simple past tense in the indirect. The examples are given as such. Direct tense, he said, comma, inverted commas begin, I write a letter. Indirect, it becomes into the past form, that is, he said that he wrote a letter. In the second example, we see in the direct tense, she said, comma, inverted commas begin, I study English every day. In indirect, it changes to she said that he studied English every day. You can change the shift of a simple present in the direct form to a simple past in the indirect sentence. For example, in the first one we had I write, which shifts to he wrote. In the second example, I study shifts to he studied. We come to the next one, which is a simple present continuous becomes past continuous. Indirect part of the sentence, he said, comma, inverted commas begin, I am writing a letter. In indirect, it becomes, he said that he was writing a letter. The second example under the same form is, she said, I'm studying English at the moment. She said that she was studying English at the moment. The next part of the tense, which is a present perfect, becomes past perfect. In direct sentence, we say, he said, comma, inverted commas begin, I have written a letter, full stop, and inverted commas close. In indirect, he said that he had written a letter. In the next, it said, she said, comma, inverted commas begin, I have studied English for 2 years. In indirect sentence, we use it as, she said that she had studied English for 2 years. In the next one, a simple past becomes a past perfect. Example, she said, comma, inverted commas begin, I studied English. In indirect form, it is said, she said that she had studied English. Indirect, he said, comma, inverted commas begin, I wrote a letter, full stop and inverted commas close. In indirect, he said that he had written a letter. The next part is past continuous tense, which becomes past perfect continuous. Indirect, part of the sentence, he said, comma, inverted commas begin. I was writing a letter, full stop and inverted commas close. In indirect, it said, he said that he had been writing a letter. The next example of the same, that is past continuous which becomes into past perfect, the direct statement is, she said, comma, inverted commas begin, I was studying English. In indirect form, she said that she had been studying English. We come to the next part of direct indirect, that is the same continuation of the tenses. A past perfect and past perfect continuous remains unchanged. Example, he said, comma, inverted commas begin, the flood had destroyed their fields. Full stop and inverted commas close. Indirect speech, he said that the flood had destroyed their fields. The second example, direct speech, she said, Amina had been singing. She said that Amina had been singing. We see in both the examples, that is past perfect, that is had destroyed, doesn't change its form in the indirect, and we use it in the same form in the indirect. Similarly, in the next example, past perfect continuous, that is had been singing, doesn't change its form and it continues as had been singing. We come to the next rule. The next rule says that if the reported speech expresses some kind of universal truth, facts, or habitual action, the tense of the verb in the reported speech is not changed into the corresponding past, but remains exactly the same. That is, if there is some universal truth, statements which are universally acknowledged, we do not change the corresponding tense into past. We stick to the same verb and the tense which is given. For example, my teacher said, comma, inverted commas begin, honesty is the best policy, full stop and inverted commas close. In indirect statement, my teacher told me that honesty is the best policy. Second example, under the same rule we see, he said, comma, inverted commas begin, 2 and 3 makes 5. In indirect statement, we said, he said that 2 and 3 makes 5. If you see the form and the verb, we haven't changed the form of the verb or the tense. Honesty is the best policy. The same is used in the indirect. The next example, 2 and 3 makes 5. In indirect statement, we use as it is. We don't change its form. We come next to rule 4. In the reported speech, the words expressing nearness of time or place are changed into words showing distance. Now becomes then, this becomes that, here becomes there, these becomes those, hence becomes thence, hither becomes thither, thus becomes so, hereby becomes thereby, ago becomes before, Come becomes go. Today becomes that day. Yesterday becomes that previous day. Tonight becomes that night. Last night becomes the previous night. Tomorrow becomes the next day. And next month becomes the following month. We'll continue with the examples and its other rules in the next class. Thank you. Till then, stay safe, stay home.